I'm a 32-year-old guy, and last month my coworker slapped me across the face at our office holiday dinner, while my manager and the rest of the table just watched. No one said anything. No one stood up. They just stared at their plates like if they kept chewing, it wouldn't count. If I tell this story at work, I'm overreacting. If I tell it here, I just want to check if I'm crazy. The dinner was at one of those mid-range hotel restaurants the company loves. Enough candles and fake greenery to feel festive, still cheap enough for accounting. We'd hit targets this year, so they did the whole thing. Open bar, preset menu, the VP flying in to give a speech about family. I work in operations. Translation, spreadsheets, vendor calls, making sure other people's promises don't sink the company. I'm not loud. I don't get drunk at events. I'm the guy you forget to introduce because you assume I'm already part of the furniture. She is not the furniture. Her name is Lauren. Top sales rep, 3 years running. Knows everybody. Big laugh, big presence, the kind of person who high-fives HR and calls the CEO by his first name. I don't dislike her exactly. I just learned early on that if you're quiet, people like her treat you like background noise. We were seated at the same table. 8 of us. My manager, 2 analysts, Lauren, another sales guy, and a couple from finance. The wine started flowing before the appetizers. By the time the main course hit, the volume at our table was double everyone else's. It started small. A joke here, a dig there. "Grant, you're not drinking?" she asked, waving her glass toward me. "I've got an early morning," I said. Truthfully, I just don't like being drunk in front of coworkers. She leaned over, loud enough for the whole table. "You always have an early morning. Live a little?" I smiled, polite. I am living. I just like remembering it. A couple of people laughed. My manager, Dave, gave this tight smile, like he wasn't sure which side to be on. She shifted her attention, but it came back in waves. Comments about how ops guys have it easy. How if we don't sell, you don't have anything to optimize. Little taps on my shoulder when she wanted a salt shaker, a napkin, anything. At one point, when dessert menus came out, she reached over and flicked my tie. "You even wore a tie," she said. "Adorable. Who are you trying to impress?" I gently took the end of the tie back out of her hand. "I'd appreciate it if you didn't do that." I said it calmly. "That's important to me." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't swear. I just put a boundary down. The table got quiet for half a second. Then someone from finance cracked a joke about the cheesecake, and the noise washed back in. Lauren pulled a face, exaggerated. "Wow. Okay. Didn't know we had a dress code for fun," she said, rolling her eyes. I let it go. I focused on my plate, on the VP's speech at the front of the room about respect and our values. I noticed there was a camera in the corner, one of those small black domes they put in hotel event spaces. I remember thinking it was overkill. Who steals salad forks? Then came the slap. After the speeches, people started moving around between tables. Music got louder. Some of the sales team were already half dancing near the bar. At our table, Lauren's story volume kept climbing. She was reenacting some client call, arms flying, pushing people lightly on the shoulder to emphasize the punchlines. She did it to me twice, hand landing on my arm, fingers lingering a little too long. I shifted away the second time. The third time, when her hand came toward my chest in another, "You know what I mean, right?" gesture, I put my palm up between us, not even touching her, just a stop sign. "Lauren," I said, still calm, "please stop touching me." It was like someone hit pause on the whole table. Her smile froze, then twisted. For a second, I thought she was going to laugh it off. Instead, she leaned in, eyes narrowing, cheeks flushed from wine. "Are you serious right now?" she said. "Yeah," I answered. "I am." Maybe if I'd apologized for making things awkward, she would have rolled her eyes and moved on. Maybe if I'd said nothing, she would have kept going until I laughed with her. Instead, I held eye contact and didn't back down. She took that personally. "God, you're such a—" she started, then cut herself off. shook her head like she'd changed her mind about the word. Fine. You want space? She straightened up, squared her shoulders, and before I could process what was happening, her hand came up and cracked across my cheek. It was loud, the kind of sound that makes people at nearby tables turn. My head snapped to the side. My ear rang. For a second I smelled her perfume and steak sauce and cheap red wine all mixed together. Then silence. Dave, my manager, stared at his plate. The analyst next to me very carefully lifted his water glass. Someone across from me opened their mouth and closed it again. No one said, "What the hell, Lauren?" No one stood up. A couple of people looked away like they were embarrassed for me. I was the only one who moved. I put my napkin on the table. Not dramatically, just folded it once and set it down. My cheek burned. My hands didn't shake, which surprised me. "I'm going to head out," I said to no one in particular. "Grant, come on," Lauren said immediately. Voice suddenly light again like it was a bit. "Don't be like that. It was a joke." I looked at her. "You hit me," I said. "That's not a joke." She snorted. "Oh my God, you're overreacting. It was a tap. Sit down. Don't make this weird." Dave cleared his throat. "Let's all just calm down," he muttered, still not looking at me. "It's been a long year. We don't need drama tonight." That sentence stuck to my ribs harder than the slap. I took my wallet out, tucked a couple of bills under my untouched dessert plate, even though the company was paying, just because I needed to feel like I wasn't taking anything from them in that moment. "Have a good night," I said, and walked toward the exit. On the way out, I passed that little black camera in the corner. For the first time, I was glad it was there. At least something in that room had been watching without looking away. In the cold air outside, my cheeks stung and my stomach twisted. Part of me thought I should have shouted, made a scene, demanded she be kicked out. Another part of me was already rewriting it in my head. Maybe it really wasn't that bad. Maybe I did make it weird. But standing there, watching my breath fog in front of me, I realized something that scared me more than the slap. If I went home, slept it off, and pretended it hadn't happened, that room would become the new normal. So I drove home, sat at my kitchen table with the company's code of conduct open on my phone, and started reading it like it was the only thing keeping me from gaslighting myself. I didn't know it yet, but that decision, to treat it like it mattered, was going to cost them a lot more than an awkward dinner. The next morning, the office looked exactly the same as always. Fluorescent lights, the hum of printers, the quiet shuffle of people pretending to be productive before coffee kicked in. But something was different. In the way they glanced at me, quick looks, then away, the kind people give someone who is part of something they don't want to acknowledge. Lauren arrived a little later than usual, holding a latte and laughing with someone from marketing. For a moment, watching her, I almost convinced myself the slap had been exaggerated in my memory. Maybe it had been softer. Maybe I'd leaned into it. Then she passed my desk, slowed just enough, and said under her breath, "Hope you slept off the drama." I stared at my monitor. "We need to talk about what happened," she scoffed, loud enough for two nearby coworkers to hear. "Grant, please. I gave you a playful tap. You stormed out like I threw a chair at you. Let's both move on." Two people in adjacent cubicles froze, not turning, not reacting, just listening with that stiff posture that says they heard everything. I kept my voice level. "You slapped me, in front of the whole table." She leaned closer. "And you're blowing it way out of proportion. If you drag HR into this, you're going to look ridiculous." That word, ridiculous, landed harder than the slap. Ridiculous is what people call someone they've already decided not to respect. She walked away, still smiling, as if the world belonged to her again. I opened my inbox. There was a meeting invite from Dave, my manager. Quick sync, 10 minutes. I knew what was coming before I stepped into the conference room. He closed the door, sighed, and softened his voice into that parental tone managers use when they think they're being reasonable. "Look, man, I heard you left early last night." I didn't say anything. "Lauren told me there was a misunderstanding. Holiday dinners can get messy. Alcohol, stress, end of year. You know how it is. I didn't misunderstand anything, I said. She hit me. That's not a misunderstanding. He fiddled with a pen, avoiding eye contact. I get that it felt uncomfortable, but making this a big deal helps no one, especially you. You're a good guy, Grant. Don't drag yourself into something that will overshadow your work. There it was, the company line without the official stamp, not "we'll handle it," but please don't make us handle it. Are you asking me not to report it? I asked. I'm asking you to consider the impact, he said carefully. Things like this tend to escalate. The message was clear. Escalation was inconvenient for him, not for me. I walked out without agreeing to anything. At lunch, I sat alone. Not by choice, just no one approached. People hovered near tables, chatting, but their energy shifted whenever I walked past. Not avoidance out of malice, avoidance out of fear of being pulled into something messy. Halfway through my sandwich, one of the analysts from the dinner, a quiet guy named Omar, sat down across from me without meeting my eyes. He spoke into his tray. I saw what happened. I didn't move. And? That wasn't a joke? He said quietly. She hit you. Hard. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. No one said anything. He shrugged. Lauren's protected. Sales loves her. Leadership loves her. People treat her like she's untouchable. Saying anything doesn't feel safe. Did it look like I provoked her? I asked. He shook his head. No. You were calm the whole night. A moment later, he stood up, nervous. I'll tell HR if they ask. He hesitated. I can't be the one to start it. I nodded. I understood more than he knew. That afternoon, HR sent a vague email. We'd like to schedule a conversation to clarify an interpersonal concern, reported informally. Informally. Meaning Lauren had gone there first, I replied immediately. I'd like this documented formally. I will provide a written statement. The HR rep, a woman named Jenna, looked almost startled when we met. Maybe she expected me to downplay it. Instead, I gave her a clear timeline. Every detail, every witness. No embellishing, no dramatics, just the truth. She typed slowly. Did you feel physically threatened? Yes. Did you retaliate in any way? No. Were you consuming alcohol? One drink. Early. I was sober. She nodded, still typing. Hotel restaurants typically have surveillance. We can request footage. That was the moment she realized this wasn't going away. When I finished, she asked softly, What outcome are you hoping for? Safety, I said. Respect. Accountability. Her expression flickered. Surprise, maybe respect. Maybe concern about the mess this would cause. I left her office and went back to my desk. I expected anxiety, maybe regret. Instead, I felt something steadier. Like the ground under my feet had finally stopped shifting. Late afternoon, Lauren appeared again. This time she wasn't smiling. You went to HR? She asked, voice low, sharp. They reached out to me, I answered, and I told them the truth. She stared at me like I'd broken some unspoken social contract. You're really doing this, she said. Not a question. A realization. I didn't flinch. Yes. She opened her mouth like she had more to say, but nothing came out. Then she turned and walked away. For the first time, she didn't look confident. But that was just the beginning. The investigation didn't hit like an explosion. It unfolded like a slow tightening of screws. Quiet, methodical, designed to make sure no one could slip out from under responsibility. Once it started, HR scheduled individual interviews, first with me, then with witnesses, then with leadership. The tone changed immediately. No more soft suggestions about misunderstandings or holiday tensions. Now everything was documented, time-stamped, saved in a folder with my name on it. Corporate didn't like risks, and a physical altercation at a company event wasn't a risk. They treated it like a lawsuit with a fuse. By Wednesday, the atmosphere in the office went from awkward to tense. People avoided hallways where Lauren walked. Conversations dropped when she appeared. She still tried to act unaffected, but the cracks showed. Short fuses, tight jaw, sudden bursts of forced laughter. She knew the company wasn't brushing this aside anymore. Everyone did. That morning, HR sent a calendar block titled Follow-up Compliance Review. Compliance review meant something serious. It meant legal was now involved. I came prepared. I'd consulted a workplace attorney the night before, not to sue, but to understand my rights, the procedures, the typical outcomes. I learned something crucial. When physical misconduct is involved, the company is obligated to investigate thoroughly or risk liability, meaning Lauren couldn't charm or joke her way out of this. The process had a life of its own now. When I walked into the conference room, Jenna from HR wasn't alone. A second woman sat beside her, older, wearing a navy blazer and thin-framed glasses, with a calm expression that somehow made everything feel more serious. "This is Karen from Corporate Compliance," Jenna said. "She's assisting with the review." Karen nodded once. "We appreciate your cooperation." There was no friendliness in her tone, not hostility either, just precision. The tone of someone who sees messy situations every week and knows how to cut them open without flinching. They asked for more details, every moment, every movement, every direct quote I could remember. Karen typed it all, repeating key phrases back to ensure accuracy. She wasn't building a story, she was building a timeline. When I finished, she asked one last question. "Have you had any prior issues with Lauren?" "No," I said. "We weren't close. She just crosses boundaries with everyone." I put one down. She reacted. Karen nodded, as if that fit cleanly into 100 similar cases she'd seen. "Thank you. Please be available for further follow-up." As I left the room, I saw Lauren waiting outside, her arms folded tight, eyes narrowed, foot tapping. She shot me a look full of resentment. Not anger, not fear, but betrayal, as if I'd violated an agreement neither of us ever made. By afternoon, word leaked, subtly, quietly, but unmistakably. Compliance had pulled the hotel's surveillance footage. That changed everything. People who had pretended not to see the slap the night of the dinner now remembered it with perfect clarity. 2 analysts approached me in the break room. One whispered, "If they need statements, I'll give one." I didn't want to get involved before, but this is serious. I didn't pressure them. I didn't need to. The situation had reached a point where doing nothing felt more dangerous than telling the truth. A day later, something unexpected happened. Dave, my manager, was removed from the project channel we shared. His permissions on our shared folders were revoked. An email circulated from HR. Management structure temporarily adjusted pending internal review. No one said it openly, but everyone understood. He was being investigated too, for ignoring the incident, for discouraging me from reporting it, for trying to contain something he had a legal obligation to escalate. It was the first domino I didn't expect to fall. At lunch, Omar quietly said, "He tried to talk to 2 analysts yesterday, asked them not to blow things up. They reported it." I nodded slowly. That explained the sudden shift. Trying to influence witnesses during an investigation was a major violation. Meanwhile, Lauren's world shrank. People kept their distance. Sales leads, she used to laugh with now avoided eye contact. She spent meetings stiff-backed, arms crossed, jaw clenched. She stopped wearing the bright colors she used to love, replaced them with muted blacks and grays as if trying to blend into the walls. Then came the turning point. Friday morning, all employees received an email. Reminder, harassment and conduct policy. Mandatory acknowledgement due today. We hadn't gotten one of those since my first week at the company. They only sent them when something serious had happened internally. 5 minutes later, Lauren stormed into the office kitchen while I was filling my water bottle. "You're ruining my life," she said quietly, shaking. "You know that, right?" One moment, one slip, and suddenly I'm a monster? I turned. "I didn't call you a monster." "You didn't have to," she snapped. "You reported me. Compliance is tearing my job apart. People are looking at me like I'm radioactive." She stepped closer, not touching, just leaning in with the desperation of someone used to control. "You could have come to me. We could have solved this between us." "I tried," I said. "The night of the dinner, you told me I was overreacting." She pressed her lips together, hard, the first sign she understood how weak that argument sounded now. "This will destroy my reputation," she whispered. "Everything I've worked for." For a moment her voice softened. Not manipulation, not anger, just the quiet realization that her power wasn't invincible. "This isn't about your reputation," I said. "It's about what you did." She looked at me like that was a foreign concept. Before she could respond, Jenna entered the kitchen. "Lauren, we need you in Conference B." Lauren froze. "Right now?" "Yes." She walked out stiffly, not looking back. The rest of the day unfolded slowly, like watching a rainstorm through a window, quiet but impossible to ignore. People typed less, whispered more, office doors closed more often. Around 4 p.m., an email arrived. "Lauren Mitchell has been placed on administrative leave pending conclusion of the investigation." The office fell into a hush that didn't lift for minutes. Some people glanced at me, not accusatory, not sympathetic, just aware now of the full weight of what had happened. I didn't celebrate. I didn't smile. I didn't feel vindicated. What I felt was stillness. A quiet in the air that hadn't been there for weeks. They thought the situation had reached its peak. They thought the hardest part was over. They thought I was done. I wasn't. The final week of the investigation moved quietly, almost too quietly. No confrontations, no raised voices, no dramatic scenes in hallways. Just a series of closed doors, brief meetings, and the slow dismantling of everything Lauren thought was untouchable. Monday morning, I walked into the office to find Dave's name missing from our team's Slack sidebar. By noon, his responsibilities had already been redistributed. HR later confirmed what everyone suspected. He was being demoted and reassigned to a non-managerial role in another department. Failure to escalate a workplace conduct violation was the official wording. It was clinical, unemotional, but accurate. People treated me differently now, not like a hero, not like a problem, but like someone whose boundaries mattered, someone the company was suddenly careful around. Compliance investigations did that. They reminded everyone what the real rules were. By Wednesday, Jenna from HR called me into a meeting room again. This time, Karen from Compliance wasn't beside her. Instead, there was a folder on the table, closed, with a single piece of paper placed neatly on top. "We've concluded the investigation," Jenna said. Her tone was steady, respectful. "I'll walk you through the findings." She explained everything with a lawyer's precision. The hotel's surveillance footage showed the slap clearly. Multiple witnesses confirmed I didn't provoke it. Lauren admitted to striking me, but framed it as a moment of frustration. Compliance classified it as physical misconduct and violation of workplace safety guidelines. The company had a legal and ethical obligation to act. Then she handed me the paper. "Lauren Mitchell's employment has been terminated effective immediately," she said. There was no satisfaction in her tone, but there was no ambiguity either. This wasn't a warning. This wasn't last chance. This was final. I read the paper slowly, not because I doubted it, but because my brain needed time to absorb that the situation was truly over. No loopholes, no mutual understanding, no returning in 2 weeks with a forced smile. Lauren was gone. "She'll receive standard severance," Jenna continued. "But the termination will note violation of conduct policy. No references will be provided beyond dates of employment. Real, consequential, documented, exactly what should have happened. And as for you," she added, "we want to acknowledge the professionalism you maintained throughout the process. Your conduct helped us handle this properly." That sentence landed heavier than I expected. For weeks, I'd felt like I was pushing against the weight of an entire culture of silence. Now, the same structure that once resisted me was carefully, deliberately correcting itself. After the meeting, I returned to my desk. People didn't crowd me or congratulate me. A few offered quiet nods. Omar gave me a look that said everything without needing words. Around 3 p.m., my phone buzzed with an email notification. Subject: Opportunity to discuss your future. Here, it was from our department head, someone 2 levels above Dave. She wanted to talk about retention options, career development, and ensuring you feel safe and supported. I stared at the email for a while, then closed it, because something had changed in me during all this. I'd stopped thinking of myself as the quiet guy who tried not to cause friction. I'd realized how much energy it took to shrink myself to fit inside spaces run by people like Dave and Lauren, and I was done doing that. That evening, I updated my resume and sent out applications, not out of spite, but clarity. I wasn't going to wait for the company to reinvent itself around me. I deserved a place where respect was normal, not something I had to fight for. Within a week, I had interviews. Within 2, I had an offer: better pay, better culture, a manager who actually asked about my working style instead of assuming it. I accepted without hesitation. HR scheduled an exit interview for my last day. I handed over my badge, my laptop, and a printed copy of a simple, honest note. I appreciate the opportunities, but I'm ready for an environment that aligns with my values. I hope the changes made during this process continue. No bitterness, no victory lap, just truth. As I walked out of the building for the last time, the air felt different, cleaner, lighter, like stepping out of a room that had been too small for too long. Lauren's car wasn't in the parking lot. Dave didn't appear at any windows. No ghosts, no loose ends. Just quiet. A kind of quiet that didn't feel like a warning this time. A quiet I'd earned. And as I reached my car, I realized the most important part of all this wasn't that Lauren lost her job or that the company finally enforced its own rules. The real victory was simpler. I didn't let them convince me I imagined it. I didn't let them shrink the truth. I didn't let myself disappear. They thought I was done. But the truth was, this was the first time in years I finally felt like I'd started living on my own terms. And nothing about that felt like overreacting.